What's up, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. In this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'll talk about some very important levels to watch for Tesla stock and how things are looking in my personal opinion. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moon link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15. Excuse me, not to mention 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offering's in just about 15 hours from now. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So, as far as Tesla's going, I just want to say that right now we had this high around this 484 area. We came down with a lower high, and we're continuing to see this downtrend that's perpetuating. Now, today is a very important day. It's going to be the last day of the year, the last day of trading for the year. And to start things off, we are seeing some buyers trying to defend on Tesla. But at this point, this doesn't matter as much. What's going to matter is going to be deliveries, and deliveries come out on Thursday, most likely before market opens. So, from the way I see things, okay, just know that today is going to be the last day of trading for Tesla until deliveries most likely come out. That means that, if you want to exit your positions before deliveries, if you want to get back in, this is going to be your last chance, because then if you hold anything overnight, you have to hold through deliveries. I am hoping Tesla does well. We're seeing some numbers coming out that Tesla is expected to publish the deliveries on January 2nd. And then once again, when these numbers come out, we're hoping that they beat their high of 484,500 units. The consensus is currently at about 507,000 vehicles for Q4. That's consisting of a lot of these Model 3 and Model Ys mainly. And then there's others out there, many other analysts who are expecting 515,000 plus deliveries to match its 2023 total. That's what they have to achieve. Now, there are improved demand markets in China, but the European sales are looking a little bit weaker, at least so far. Well, let's just hope that they get a lot of strength towards the end of this year. So we'll see how those end up going. But besides that, we'll just have to wait and see what the numbers end up looking like. So just keep that in mind, guys. Today is going to be the last day to trade Tesla until deliveries most likely come out on Thursday. The market's going to be closed tomorrow, so you won't have an opportunity tomorrow because of New Year's. So far, the market has been weakening, at least approaching the end of this year. We'll be watching to see if we get a small bounce today, and then if we get a rejection later on again. Besides that, I just wanted to say that now there's going to be something different. The New York Stock Exchange is going to close on January 9th to honor the late former President Jimmy Carter. That's going to be something different. It's a little bit of a change compared to before. The NASDAQ exchange will likely close trading on that Thursday as well, and then the bond market will likely end early. So it's going to be another day that the market's going to be closed in honor of Jimmy Carter, who just passed away. So very important news. And once again, I want to send condolences to him and his whole family, essentially. So that's very important. Besides that, there's nothing else that's too crazy coming out on the news. There was some news about how we had these major headlines about the U.S. Treasury saying that their computers got hacked, but I also saw other headlines saying that there's no evidence that the hackers still have access to their private documents and such. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, they don't end up gaining access and the situation improves. Besides that, at 9 o'clock a.m. today, Eastern Standard Time, we're about to get some housing data. That is going to give us more insights on how prices are looking. Then we have the Dallas Fed Services Index at 10:30 a.m. That's pretty much it for our data, so just keep that in mind. Anyways, as far as Tesla's going, we're trying to see some buyers stepping in right here. We have this main support at this 414 zone, and then our resistance to watch for is at 425, and also at 429 to 433. I think that on the 4-hour Tesla looks like it's trying to rebound a bit, so there could be an attempt to push back up to about 429 to 433. If we could break past this, there's going to be potential for 440. Might be a small push that's coming to Tesla, but like I said before, it doesn't really worry me too much, because what's going to matter is deliveries. Deliveries are going to either launch this year at these highs again, or it's about to get a big rug pull. So that's what's going to matter a lot more. For now, I could see a test of 429 to 433, but I just want to warn you to be a little bit careful, because even if the market rebounds a little bit, I can't fully trust it quite yet looking at this head and shoulders. So from how I see things, SPY has a left shoulder, we have a head, and then we have a right shoulder. We may attempt today to rebound to about 590. If we do hold above it, we're looking for essentially 590, 591.7, and then 593 is our targets. But even if they do push it a bit higher for the end of the year, even if they do something a little bit different from what I was initially expecting, there's still a large head and shoulders. We need to break above the 600s to turn back to bullish. As long as we push and we're below it, we could still reject and start dumping back down. The head and shoulders is still present. We have this right shoulder that could be forming. I'd be careful with this. This is like, we have almost everything that's panned out except for the sell off. So even if there is some kind of pump, I would still warn you to be a little careful because there's still that risk of downside later down the line, especially as there's this imbalance over here. So yes, this morning does look like we might push to about 591 to even 593, but then we could reject later on because of the head and shoulders. Same thing with ES. The left shoulder here, head and a right shoulder. We could attempt to push for about 6,000 or a little bit below that, but then if we reject off that, we'll likely be jumping back down to about 59.20 to eventually even down to like 58.80. The head and shoulders is still present. There could be a push attempt for 6,000 first. We'll have to see what kind of reaction we get. For Nvda is going to try to push higher for an attempt to get up to 140. But the issue with this is that we love to form these peaks over and over again. So if we could break 142, we turn bullish, and then there's always that possibility of the inverse head and shoulders here. But if we come short of 142, if we just get stopped around 140, then we turn back down, then I'm going to be looking for an inverse cup and handle and for this to get invalidated. So break 142, I turn bullish, but if we hit 140 and we come short and we can't break it, then there's going to be a risk of us turning back down to like 135 or below. So just keep that in mind. For Bitcoin, we look more bullish. We're looking for a test of 95,864. We need to break that to really start pushing for 98,000. If we can't break 95,800, we're looking for a push and rejection back down to the 94,000 area. So overall, we're technically on a downtrend. So we'll have to see how it goes. But I just want to say there's going to be a risk of this attempting a push, but we haven't broken key resistance yet. Let's see if 95,800 breaks. Otherwise, we could push it and dip. Watch that resistance for us to turn back up. For NQ, this is attempting a rebound temporarily, but we're looking for 21,500 as our resistance to 21,600. And then, like I said before, we had a high here, came down, made a lower high. So even if we get a push back up to this resistance at 21,636 or above that, there's still going to be that risk of this potentially coming back down because, once again, we're technically on a downtrend. We could attempt for the 21,600s, but then if we reject, there could be a move right back down, especially because we have an imbalance down here. So just be careful of that. Same thing with the QQQ. We had a high here, came down, made a lower high, came down. We're trying to hold our 200 EMA at 511, but we haven't broken 523 to turn back to bullish. It may attempt to get back up to 520, but if we reject it, we could be making a lower high to come back down. So just keep that in mind. Apple has the same setup. It could attempt to push for 254, but if we can't break that, we could just hit that, then reject back down to 252 to start dipping. So there's a very, very good chance that is what's going to end up panning out. For the IWM Russell 2000, I do want to warn you, we're trying to test our 20 EMA at 222.5. If we reject off this, we could be turning back down to about 218. There's a left shoulder head and a right shoulder here. So I want you to see what kind of reaction we get and if we get some kind of dip or not. For Coinbase, we look a bit more bullish. We're looking for 267 to about 272 as a potential target, but then be careful because there is technically a downtrend, and if we can't hold above 272, it's possible we just push a bit then reject, so that's always a possibility. For Amazon, same thing. We have kind of like a double top here. We could attempt to push to 224, but if we can't break that, 224 to 225 areas where we could reject and then turn back down to 221, so be careful. We also have an inverse cup and handle on Meta. We could attempt a retest of 597 or so, then reject back down to 589. If that fails us, we could be dipping a lot lower to 583. For Microsoft, we also happen to have kind of like a head and shoulders. We need to try to reclaim our resistance. We're looking for 428. We could test that, then reject and start dipping back down for 421. I want to see it break 431 to turn back up. Otherwise, it could be making a lower high before it starts to dip lower. For Google, we also have a left shoulder head and a right shoulder here. We need Google to break 196. Otherwise, there's still that risk of it kind of pushing a bit, getting very tight between these EMAs and eventually dipping. So there's still weakness on this chart. The VIX is not done yet. I still think this is going to have a breakout soon. I think the market has downside coming. But for now, there might be a temporary bounce just to start things off, but then there's no guarantee it's going to last. This temporary bounce could be followed by a rejection looking at the head and shoulders. Tesla might see a little bit more buyers stepping in because of deliveries, pushing it back closer to 430. However, like I said before, I'm not too worried about this. We're going to be waiting for deliveries. That's going to be the next big catalyst, and it could go either way depending on how things end up going. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Have a good rest of your day, and peace out.